Okay, I think we can start. I will thank you for joining this new first session of 2025 for our AI Jam series. And Audrey and I will be presenting today, or she will be presenting today, a new panel discussion. Before we do that, I would like to quickly introduce the HP developer community with a couple of quick slides here. Mostly to tell you about some of the things we try to do for skilling people up. And we have an entire section of the website dedicated to that on the developer.hp.com/skillup. As you know, this is the AI Jam series, or more precisely, the Keeping It Real with AI Jam series. And we have a session plan in February. We don't have the registration link yet, but we know the title. We are working on the abstract and the rest of the content, but we're going to be talking about AI inferencing at the edge from Earth to space. So I don't think you want to miss that. That's going to be February 12th. We also operate two additional series as part of the developer community. One is called the Munch and Learn, and these are thought leadership, vendor and product agnostic types of talks. We have two planned for March, February and March. One is, actually, this is wrong. This is February 29. I'm sorry about that. This is about private AI it's February 19, and I'm getting my dates wrong. It's unlocking private AI power with an example. It's a use case about insurance fraud detection. And this is done by one of our experts, Jordan Nanos. We have another one in March, and that's again March 19. And this is about how we implemented our own kind of chat GPT within HP called Chat HPE. And we're going to have one of the main architects for the solution talking about how we implemented this using private cloud AI. We have another types of talk called the meetups. This goes into a little bit more details about technology and sometimes also open source. And January 29, that's the date I was getting wrong earlier. We have one at the end of this month called Unleashing AI Innovation, a deep dive on the HP private cloud AI software stack. I know we have we had few sessions talking about the hardware part of the solution, but we didn't have so many about the software stack. So that's going to be an interesting one. In February, we'll be talking about GreenLake webhooks. So that's another technology we are introducing to integrate with GreenLake using webhooks technology to automate or integrate with HP GreenLake. And finally, we have a topic. The title is not 100% defined yet, but it's going to be on eBPF. And if you're interested about how you can build those kind of sandbox under Linux kernel, join us on March 26. I think it's going to be interesting. And it's delivered by Neil, one of our experts in the OpsRamp team. And that's it for the session. For the workshops, just the last point on the list here. We have another way to learn new technology called Workshops on Demand. We started this initiative back in the pandemic days where we couldn't deliver workshops in person. So we built that solution, which we kept since then as an on-demand solution. So we have a catalog of about 30 workshops. We deliver those through Jupyter Notebooks, sorry, and you can get those 24/7 for free. It's available to anyone over the internet. So take a look at the catalog. You'll find things, open source things, like getting started with Kubernetes, with Docker, with REST API, with Git. But you'll find also programming languages, things like Python or Rust, and also some products from HPE, like GreenLake APIs or Sustainability Insight Center, and ILO, OneView, you name it. Give it a try. If you do, provide us some feedback, because we can grow this catalog over time, and we'd be happy to hear about some of the gaps. You can reach the dev community on different touch points. First of all, there's a website. So remember, developer.hp.com. That's pretty easy. We have an external Slack you can register called HPDev on slack.com. We are also present for the HP and partners in the room. We have Ask HP Dev community, and that's internal employee. And we have community HP. I forgot the rest of the.
Oh, sorry about that.
There's a community HP developer community external. So that's for partner. It replaces the Yammer group that we had before. We have a newsletter that we send every beginning of the month. You can subscribe. We have an email. We have an X account, and we have a link to the workshops on demand. That's it. You can scan that code if you want for all this in one place. And that's it for me. And with that, I will just turn it over to Audrey for the rest of the session.
Okay. Thanks, Didier. So is everyone able to see the lineup we have for today on the screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, so welcome everybody. Today's conversation is about building ethical and trustworthy AI systems. And this is a very large topic. And when we say that we're in this, era of AI, or sometimes we say AI everywhere, and we consider how these technologies will be incorporated into our lives and how we interact with them as employees and technologists and as organizations, we now begin to think, well, with these new tools, what kind of responsibilities are associated with harnessing these tools? So, in the spirit of having, a happy IT New Year's, since it's still January, we thought we'd kick off with a topic that follows the lines of the, eat the frog methodology. So, do the hard thing first in the beginning that has the most amount of value. So I would consider this to be one of those topics. And we have a wonderful panel of guests today who span our whole organization, really. So we're going to look at our HPE AI ethics principles and what does it mean at an organization level to be using these technologies, and how does this align with the values we have as a corporation? And then we'll go into, well, what does this look like within the business, and how do we operationalize this? And then we'll take you into our HP labs and learn more about the model selection process and a loan application use case on how we're using AI, but how we're also approaching and considering the things and all the attributes around building what would be a trustworthy AI system. And trustworthy just meaning, is it reliable? Does it consider biases? Are there security and governance? And so there's a whole number of things that go into this topic. So hopefully we can bring you a taste of it today. So I want to introduce today's guests. We have Pam, Jeff, and Sahad here. And I'm going to turn it over to each of them to introduce themselves and a little bit about their role and what really gets them up in the morning. So Pam, over to you.
Hi, thank you, Audrey. So I'm Pam Wood. My team and I, we conduct human rights due diligence across many aspects of our business, looking for risk of harm to people, ensuring that we're protecting everyone's human rights, and partnering to identify and support mitigation strategies. So this includes due diligence in our supply chain, in our operations, sales, acquisitions, and of course, AI solutions.
And what gets you up in the morning, Pam?
I would say the ability to make an impact, making sure that technology is used for good and in line with our company's mission and not being misused by any actors. And of course, inspiring and enabling others to do the same.
That's a wonderful life mission. You have a wonderful job and role at HPE.
I really do.
Jeff.
Hey folks, Jeff Oxenberg. I lead machine learning engineering for a team within HPE called Sales and Solutions Engineering. Our primary role is to work directly with customers to implement proof of concepts and scale those out to repeatable solutions. Really enjoying the work here with HPE's AI Ethics Working Group, for which I've been a part of for the last several years. My research interests are mostly around the security and robustness of machine learning systems and the intersection of people and technology in socio-technical systems. And what gets me up in the morning, I think our customers, I'm in a customer-focused role, and the time that I spend with the AI Ethics Working Group, and which I'll share later, being able to work with our sales teams and with our customers to ensure that all of the AI projects that we as HP implement are robust and secure and trustworthy and responsible for our customers really gets me up.
Wonderful. Thank you for all the work that you do with our customers. And Sahad, over to you.
Yeah, I'm Sahan Korbanpur, part of AI Research Lab. AI Research is part of HPE Lab. Working on different AI topics in our team, such as robustness, safety, ethical AI, and also we are trying to also, if HPE's customer have any AI solution, we are trying to address their problems and solve their problems. So we work on varieties of problems. So I would say safety, robustness, and ethical AI is in the core of every AI solution, and it's HP's strategy. And what gets up in the morning is desire to learn. Our field, is evolving every seconds. When you wake up every morning, you see a new publication. So definitely, I desire to learn every morning that I wake up. I want to learn what's going on in our field. So in that way, I can be more helpful to HPE's customer and also my teammates. And definitely, that would be my first priority goal, to evolve as a person. So I would say that is what gets up in the morning.
Yeah, and I think so many of us, and probably a lot of our listeners too, echo that, in the sense that there's so much to learn in this space right now, and it's evolving really quickly, that you take a week off, and your phone summary of what's on Substack and what's been released from research is just really evolving. It's evolving really quickly. So thank you for having that spirit of continuous learning. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start with a poll for our audience. And we're just going to ask you if your organization has AI principles or anything that you're aware of that helps guide product development decisions, and what that's like in your organization today. So I'm curious to see what people have to say. We know that this is, as technologists, sometimes we don't necessarily look up and say, okay, well, what is the business developing and putting out, and what should I be following? But we have seen more, and in talking with some of our professional services organizations who host workshops as well around AI strategy and development, that when we look at the adoption of a new technology, like we are seeing with the advancement of machine learning, deep learning, and into AI, it starts to broaden the conversation about, well, what's the mission and objective of the organization? What are we trying to deliver as products and services to our customers? How is this technology enabling a digital transformation and evolving the experience for the customer or for the patient and for the consumer? So it's becoming a lot broader now. All right, let's see. Let's see what we have. Oh, interesting. Okay. This is great to see. This is actually probably a lot better than I anticipated, which is a good thing, I would think. So 52% said yes, their organization has AI principles and it helps them guide their development decisions. Very few people said no, and others are just not sure. So I think the not sure is an interesting category, because it means that we're all in the potentially these early stages. There's so many organizations that maybe say, hey, we want to get started with AI. Let's just jump into it, right? Let's try out some use cases, like let's get some data, let's build some models. And then the organization says, well, what's the business problem we're trying to solve? How are we trying to help our customers? And how can we be thoughtful and considerate in the choices that we're making? So this is interesting. Thank you, everybody. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Pam to walk you through how we've approached AI ethics at HP.
Great, thanks so much, Al. As a little bit of background, HP's AI ethics emerged from our human rights work here in the Ethics and Compliance Office and in partnership with labs. In 2019, we wrapped up a company-wide human rights impact assessment, and that identified some new salient human rights risks for us at HP, including responsible product development and responsible use of technology. And we had a recommendation from our third-party experts who conducted this with us to focus on AI specifically as perhaps the single solution or tool that we had that had potential for most harm, of course, most opportunity as well. And so we went around the business at that time explaining this opportunity to establish some AI ethics governance and explaining the risk to almost every BU and function within our company. And we had full interest without hesitation from everyone. So in April of 2020, we established our AI governance structure. And that includes really two main components: an AI ethics advisory board, now called the AI Ethics Responsibility Committee, that has pan HP executive level representation guiding our work in this space. And they respond systemically to the risks that we identify over in the working group. So the board provides oversight, makes important decisions that bridge both business and ethical considerations, and signs off on much of the work of the working group. Transitioning over to that other element, the working group, is where Jeff and I on the call here sit and have been an active part of. And we roll up our sleeves to dig through tough challenges and apply a multidisciplinary expertise to drive and operationalize our principles. That includes building our processes, conducting training and awareness, and of course, assessing all AI solutions. If we flip to the next slide, we can share one of our first tasks was just defining our principles. So great to hear that so many of you as well have principles in place, are aware of them, or perhaps think you might have them in place, and would encourage you to really explore that. We at HP knew back in 2020 that our principles would really be the foundation for all of our work on AI ethics. They're extremely beneficial. So they frame all of the trainings that we do, our engagements, and most importantly, how we assess risk to people for AI that we develop, that we source to use, or that we integrate into our solutions. When coupled with guidance, principles give our team members the ability to consider ethics by design as well. So a little bit of history on this. How did we land at these principles? Well, we in HP's AI ethics working group, we established a subcommittee to develop these. First, we researched principles that were already out in the public domain and sought to learn from others about why they chose them and what was important. And then we took a lot of time to carefully consider which principles were most relevant to our business and our partners. And we consulted with external human rights experts, folks internally, and fleshed out and really debated each word of each principle before seeking approval from our executive level committee. I'll just briefly take you through what these principles are. First of all, privacy enabled and secure, which is, of course, extremely important to make sure that all of the appropriate safeguards are in place to protect personal information. And of course, especially with the rise of generative AI, to protect sensitive business information as well. We want to make sure we protect that against bad actors, but also just sloppy practices, if you will. The second is human focus. We really believe that respect for human rights must be in place, that AI solutions should be designed with mechanisms and safeguards to support human oversight and prevent misuse. Human oversight is really needed for deployment and use of AI. So AI should be augmenting human activities, not vice versa. And technical oversight of the AI solution is required to allow for continuous improvement. What we've seen all too often is an AI solution is developed but not maintained and properly nurtured to be fully effective and to be fully ethical as time goes on. And of course, misuse, which can be intentional or in what I think is most common, due to a user's lack of awareness of the risks and those necessary safeguards that need to be maintained over time. Our third principle, inclusive, is really about minimizing harmful bias, ensuring fair and equal treatment and access for all. So this is, for example, ensuring unbiased inputs into the solution, checking for unbiased outputs, making sure it's accessible to those who need it and in a fair way, and building in diverse representation. As well, we have responsible, which actually contains about 4 different components that we usually dig into here. One is transparency, making users aware that AI is in use, and not trying to hide that in any way. Explainability, which can be both for users to be aware of why AI is in use or for what purpose or what information is collected, but also for the folks who are managing that AI solution to be able to understand at some level how that AI came to a solution or an output. And that goes back to my previous point around continuous improvement. It's also about accountability. So for HPE, at least, most of our recommendations on AI we assess ensure that there is some channel for users or those impacted by AI to be able to raise concerns about the AI, not just about how well it may function, but also about if there is any potential negative impact on people around that. So having a grievance mechanism in place. And sustainability, which is a tough one, but really thinking through how do we use AI in a way that isn't too energy intensive and be responsible with our use of it in that way. And finally, robust, a really important one. It's about building in quality testing, including safeguards to maintain functionality, minimizing misuse and impact of failure. So there's sort of 3 elements that we typically talk about under robust. Initial model performance. So let's select the appropriate metrics and evaluate accuracy from the get-go. It's about ongoing performance. Let's have a designated person who's responsible for overseeing that ongoing monitoring and continuously improving that performance. You'll see a common thread here about continuous improvement. Really, the better that an AI solution works tends to align with how ethical it may behave as well. And resiliency. So adversarial attacks could compromise significant amounts of data, while system downtime could impact a significant number of people if it's a solution for a critical function. So that, in a nutshell, are our principles. They may sound pretty similar to some that you may have in place as well, and we do feel they align quite well with many of the industry principles, such as OECD, with whom we actively engage.
Yeah, these different principles, when I think about various AI use cases that I hear across industries, some of these become just very important, right? And particularly on the type of use case that you're trying to identify or build towards. So anything that's really, I think of a lot in healthcare and life sciences, anything that's affecting human health, especially in a real-time manner, right? Like when we think of what robotics would do for people, like these types of principles become so important in those use cases that they're really core, actually. I'm curious how these hold up over time. So, if we were thinking about this back in 2020 and now it's 2025, how have these evolved or held up? And how do you, like, even as an organization, say, okay, do we need to revisit this?
Yeah, when we drafted them, we had in mind that it would be a bit of a live document, if you will, and we'd continuously update. But in practice, what we have found is our principles have really remained fit for purpose and proved expressly important when generative AI rolled out. What really changed for us was the degree of internal collaboration that we've had since generative AI was introduced. So, and that's more about internal, actually, collaboration. Internal partners such as legal and cybersecurity have more at stake now with generative AI than more traditional forms of AI. And often generative AI requires stronger scrutiny and controls. And so that's allowed us to really build out a broader AI governance structure across the company, for which AI ethics is now just a part, not the only part, and to share our ways of working and together introduce more efficient ways of assessing and supporting all of our folks who are planning to use AI internally or who are developing AI solutions or products.
Wonderful. So we're gonna pass it on now. Let's see, make sure, to Jeff. Tell us more. So, Pam has just walked us through what we would look at from the organization level, gave us a set of values and principles to align to. So now how are we taking that into, our day-to-day jobs and roles? What's that look like?
Awesome. Yeah. So I think that this is probably my favorite part of my job. Just seeing the transformation in how we went from in 2020, like Pam mentioned, forming a committee to develop these principles, now to operationalizing them over the past 5 years. Some of the lessons that we've learned have been awesome. And yeah, I'm here to share those with you folks today. So how do we operationalize these principles within HPE? For every AI technology that we have, either a product that we're intending to develop, a partnership that we're intending to form, a process that we're intending to augment with AI, or even a customer engagement, we funnel these through the same intake process. So a member of our working group, Jeff F, shout out Jeff if you're watching, did a lot of amazing automation to develop an intake form and a process to triage and automate a lot of this work. But when we started out in 2020, like Pam mentioned, kind of trying to operationalize these principles, HPE's been an AI company for a while now, right? But there wasn't this generative AI boom that led to so many AI projects. So things were kind of easy to maintain manually. We convened an assessment panel composed of members of our working group, and our working group is comprised of members from around the company with very diverse backgrounds. And I think if there's one tip or one takeaway for everyone here today, it's when you're developing a working group in your own company, develop one that has a very diverse set of experiences and stakeholders from around the business. So we have people from security and privacy and human rights and HR, of course, but also from engineering and labs and sales. Actually, over half of our working group is comprised of technologists, people who deal with technology in a more of an engineering capacity day to day. And so in 2020, 2021, 2022, this kind of manual process worked very well. We convene an assessment team, we schedule a workshop, and then we go through this 1 hour meeting where we provide a risks and recommendations after kind of just asking these tough, spicy questions about the project that's under assessment. What could possibly go wrong here? What's the risk to people? What could you envision the harms being? And what we found is this process works very well, but it was tough to scale. So we ended up building out a bunch of really robust automation to do like automated triage, identifying high, medium, and low risk projects and activities, and then triaging them appropriately to assign assessment teams quicker. It's really the only barrier that we had, and I had come from kind of a sales engineering role, so I interact with a lot of our sales teams, is our sales teams wanted to ensure that there wasn't really any more bureaucracy being added to the sales cycle. But what we found is that by expediting this process, by having a really robust triaging process, in working with our sales teams, what we found is that they've become a huge ally of ours. We work directly with our customers, and I've been on the phone with our customers speaking to them about this process and how we ensure that the work that we're doing for our customers is robust, is trustworthy, and is ethical. And we found that this, instead of being, perceived initially as maybe a roadblock for our sales teams actually, and our customers by extension, really enjoy and provide and see value in us working through this process with them. So it's been a huge journey from 2020, kind of doing a lot of manual work here, and now this experience 5 years later, we have this very robust process that we're actually, I informally consult with our customers on how do they build out a similar trustworthy and robust and responsible AI practice internally. Has been really, really awesome. And like I mentioned before, my interest primarily has been throughout my career, like socio-technical systems, right? How these systems that we build on a day-to-day basis. My background is machine learning engineering and distributed data processing systems. How these systems actually interact to affect people's lives. It's been an amazing experience here just to see this transformation and operationalization of our principles. Yeah.
I think that's such a great just realization, Jeff, that like, it's so fun to work with technology, and it's fun to just like develop something new and interesting and say, oh, look what we can do. This is amazing. And then you realize that so much of what we do in technology is to the effect of people. And so what you just said just, really resonates to say, okay, like what am I developing and how does this impact my customer? Or how does this impact even the employees in my company if it's an internal tool? And
Absolutely.
yeah, this topic too, you said, at first you could think and say, oh, well, if we do this, it's going to slow down innovation, right? Like, let's not make barriers to our big thinking, or like, let's not slow down our efforts. But in the case that you just said, it was not, it's been more the opposite, right? It's more, okay, we're, developing intentionally in a direction that we're confident in. And by automating this, it's helping us to move quickly.
Exactly. I think doing things responsibly ultimately like enables innovation. And that's definitely clear over the past several years of working in this group, is that like the more responsibly you can do things, the more easy it is for innovation to happen. Sure.
Mhm. Absolutely. Okay, so speaking of responsible, so we're going to turn it over to Sahad to walk us through what does it look like to adopt generative AI models for, in this case, a loan use case. And at this model selection process as a developer, how can you go about assessing what models you use? So Sahad, I'll turn over to you to explain a little bit more about this use case.
Thank you so much. So in AI Lab, we aim to introduce HP as a company providing AI solutions. Also, we see significant potential in large language models, robust, safe, ethical AI. So this aligns with HP's strategic interests and address both internal needs and customer demands. So having that in mind, that large language models have a significant potential, uh, there are a lot of challenges when you're choosing a model for your task. As you mentioned, for example, if you have a loan assessment use case, that given a prompt or a context of a client at financial attributes, it could also include demographic background of the client. The LLM or the large language model is tasked with giving you the loan status. Either it is approved, in this case means the client has a good loan status, or it should be denied, which means the client has a bad loan status. So having that in mind, that the client can have a either bad or a good loan status. So if you've seen this diagram, we are working on three components. We have a recommendation engine that, given a description of your task, we find or recommend you the best suited large language model for your task. And then we further evaluate your model on some other criterias that I'll talk about it later. And also there's an opportunity or to refine even further the output of large language model, the chosen or recommended large language model. So we try to make it available to the user, all these three components, so he can save a lot of time not going through all these challenging phases. They could take a lot of time to come up with a large language model for a desired task. The evaluation could take a lot of time. It needs a lot of resources, GPUs. If you want to evaluate thoroughly, that could be time consuming, and definitely refinement also that would add additional value to the whole process. So as also I need to mention and stress on it that the ethical part also can play a role in all these three phases. So as also I show next slides, we also try to address the ethical part of the ethical concern on both recommendation and refinement phases. So here is this example prompt given a client's financial attribute. The LLM is tasked to say, okay, is this loan status is good or bad? So yeah, next please.
Mm-hmm.
So why recommending an LLM is important or is challenging? Let's say, okay, let's just pick up a popular LLM. If you see with the loan status use case, the accuracy is pretty low if you go just with a popular LLM like Llama 3 1 billion instruct. The accuracy you achieve with the loan status use case is 33%. So it's awful, this accuracy. So going with a popular LLM probably is not the best choice. Next, please. So what if you go with a larger LLM, let's say 70 billion parameters? Does it help you? Yes, a little bit. You can see with the loan status case, your accuracy improves a little bit, 53%, but it's still not good. That's what not desired. Next, please. So this is where our recommendation engine comes to play. If you see, given the same prompt for the client's attributes, the accuracy, the recommended LLM by our engine achieves an accuracy of 82%, which is a significant improvement. And you can see the financial attributes have been assessed properly or appropriately, reflecting the real loan status.
Sahad, quick question. So, I mean, I think this is an important insight that it's like, okay, larger isn't necessarily better, right? And
Right.
depending on your use case, if you're dealing with a foundation model that's tailored to the problem that you're trying to solve,
Right.
from your experience, is it easier to understand that training data set? Is it easier to understand like what goes into it so you can be sure of what comes out?
I mean, definitely, for example, this Mistral mortgage loan is a small large language model trained on the financial or mortgage loan data set, right? So that helps, but also it could have some biases or not be able to assess the financial metrics properly. Let me give you an example. What I observed or what we observed that when you, for example, if the loan is about a car app, I mean, if it's a car loan versus a home loan, these large language model, even the one that is trained on the mortgage loan, could make mistakes. Uh, uh, cannot differentiate different types of loan. For example, a car loan needs to be addressed differently. The financial metric is a little bit different when you compare it to a home loan. I mean, in a car application, when you're applying for a car loan, usually what matters is short payment affordability because the car loans usually are 3 years, 5 years, and what matters that you can pay off quickly in the short term. So the payment affordability plays a big important role when you're applying for a car loan. But when you're applying for a home loan, then your financial stability has a more importance or plays a bigger role when you're applying for a home loan. So the large language model needs to differentiate between these types of loan. So just training on a mortgage loan doesn't mean that uh, it's gonna do good for the loan status. But in this case, you can see this recommended LLM achieves 82%. And we can further refine with our, as I mentioned, that we have also a refinement component that also can be further refined. The biases, the ethical part of it can be addressed. And also in this phase, we can address that part as well. Yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did.
So when also why it's challenging to choose the right model for your task. So if you see, you have different criteria when it comes to choosing the right LLM. How good they are, as we talked, the hardware requirement. I mean, not all people have the same hardware resources, right? So that could also impact your decision on which language model to choose. The cost, I mean, they could be costly, right? Running on Amazon server, they have different costs. Time to assess each loan. I mean, these different LLMs have different speeds based on their sizes. The license constraint, and also what the fair and ethical part that is our topic here. Are they fair? Are they ethical? Are they aligning with HP's strategy, for example, when it comes to fairness and ethical AI? Or are they good at explaining the decision? Because that's very important, right, for a loan agent, because this is assisting a loan agent, right? So are they explaining the decision really good? So these are different filters or criteria when it comes to choosing a large language model for your task. You want to have all these options. And having these options, and we provide all these filters for the customer, for the user. So it makes it easier their job to choose the right LLM. But if not, imagine not having this recommendation engine, it's very challenging to, I mean, to choose the right model. It's very time consuming.
It sounds like a lot of work, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
in a good way, like this is the good work, right? Where
right,
asking yourself these questions,
right,
I think it's important, like for the development to help you truly understand, what you're creating. Because I guess, like, one thing I hear is that, and this goes back to like our data
right,
analytics, basic data analytics, right? Okay, the data that you get in, garbage out is the same. So um, in this case too, with AI, sometimes it's the idea that, well, do I know what went into it? And then do I know how to classify what was generated? Or do I
right,
know why it came up with what was
right,
generated? And like, can we explain that? So I think just asking the questions is
right.
important to the comprehensiveness of our solutions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can get frustrated when choosing the right LLM. We had a presentation or demo of this work, Barcelona, Discover Barcelona, and a lot of people were approaching us and they were frustrated. They were asking how we can do that. And they were interested in our work. And I mean, we got in touch with some of them. But yeah, I mean, you can really get frustrated when choosing the right LLM. So definitely having this tool available makes a lot of people's job easier. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very reassuring for anyone out in the audience that is going through this work right now. That yes,
I mean, this is a work in progress and a team effort, so it needs a little bit of patience to evolve it in a better way and more accurate and more mature. So it's work under progress. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, this is in a nutshell what we are offering. So the realm, which is the recommendation engine. Yeah, the realm is the recommendation engine, and we specify some domain-specific benchmarks, and the realm comes up with the initial list of model, and then it got those initial list of models get evaluated on those domain-specific benchmarks, and then they are passed to the herd, which is the evaluation component or the evaluation engine. And then it evaluates those initial list of models recognized by the realm and evaluates them on the domain-specific benchmark and scores them or ranks them, and user can choose among them, and it gets evaluated on user task, and the user can further help to see how they're performing on his task. So that's basically what we're offering by Realm and Help, the recommendation and evaluation engine. So this is, for example, the result out of Realm. You can see how it scores those initial list of models. We are offering 3 stages because the user can have different concerns. So, I mean, these 3 stages, they're the most important factors probably when it comes to the user minds. So stage 2 is just the accuracy for example, the loan use case, right? The accuracy that is performing based on the ground truth given. You can see the Mistral achieved 82% versus some of the large language models like 70 billion Llama only achieved 53%. The Mistral large uh, achieved 73%. And so also we provide the explainability scores if user interested, how good they are at explaining the decisions and the financial factors. That also we provide that factor. And more important, the ethics and fairness, because a part of HPE's heart, I mean, AI solutions, we always are concerned about ethics and fairness. Ethical AI, safety, not creating harmful content is part of the core of every AI solution we provide. You can see in this image under stage 3, ethics and fairness score. So you are all given these scores, and then you can choose the right LLM for your task appropriately based on these scores. I mean, there are some trade-offs, but I mean, it makes your job easier to choose the right model. So for ethics and fairness, uh, during evaluation, we further assess the chosen LLM on some of the ethical benchmarks, like decoding trust, and some other benchmarks. It's probably 5 or 6 different benchmarks for ethical AI that we assess the chosen language model on those benchmarks, and we rank them. So decoding trust is one of those benchmarks that is designed for ethical AI.
So Sahad, you may have just answered this, but question in the chat says, how does Realm assess these factors? Accuracy, for example, for car loans versus accuracy for a home loan.
So in the given prompt, the prompt usually you define the loan application, right? You say, okay, this is a car loan. This is a home loan. So you have the type of the loan in your prompt. And then you have the financial attributes of the client. So that way, the language model can differentiate between the car and the home. I mean, most large language models we observe they cannot differentiate. They may the value, uh, I mean, those financial metrics the same way. They may not differentiate between those metrics. Uh, so that is very important when choosing the language model to understand those financial metrics properly associated with the loan type. So that is one part. So, I mean, I talk next about how also we are making sure of that the large language model understands the differentiation between those two types. For example, I'll talk next in the other slide. Yeah, this is where also we can define that aspect. If, for example, you have a concern that your LLM doesn't understand well or cannot differentiate between different types of loan, here on the third stage, the refinement stage, also we address those concerns. We have for example, the loan agent LLM is your chosen or recommended LLM, and we have number of critic LLMs. They're acting as a judge. And you have also different context to it, to your large language, to your recommended LLM, such as guardrail prompts, chain of thoughts, few shot learning, and the workflow prompt. So we are making sure that your recommended LLM can understand or be directed to the thought process properly for your use case. For example, here we are making sure that it can differentiate between these two types of loan and can differentiate between short-term payment affordability and long-term financial stability. So these are the refinement framework that we are proposing. It has different components that we are making sure that the recommended LLM agent is aligned properly with your use case. And these are adjustable.
Is this all part of the fine-tuning process? So you would
This part also, for example, I mean, we don't want to go the fine-tuning part because it could be, I mean, time-consuming for customer and also need some resources, extra resources, could be costly. So we don't want to go that path, but that's an option, I would say. But here we are trying to make it work what we recommended, what we have. But what I mean, it scored best on those benchmarks and user data. Now let's improve it. So that's what we are trying to work with what we have to improve it further, not going the fine-tuning path. It's just giving the few shot examples, chain of thought, teaching the LLM how to think, how to reason, some guardrail prompts to ensure safety, robustness, and the ethical part also can be addressed here as I show in my next slide. I hope I answered your question.
Yes.
So for example, here, this is a car loan example and how we are refining it. You can see there are some ethical concern to it. You see demographic outputs on the left column. You can see it shows some biases. You get negative score for the race and the education, which could affect the loan score, right? The overall loan score. And also the payment affordability has been scored. I would say it's not aligned properly with the type of the loan. If we were talking about the home loan, that could reflect the actual value. But when we are talking about the car loan, that payment affordability is pretty biased. So if we go to the next slide.
Mhm. Oh,
Oh,
that's
I
all I
guess
had.
that was,
That's it.
so I guess that's my last slide.
Yeah.
So you can see, as I showed you, we have multiple critics. The multiple critics, you are given the output of the recommended LLM. The critic, they assess, analyze the output of the recommended LLM, and they say, okay, we think that's better. These are not reflected properly, or these are not aligned properly with the problem. These metrics, these scores need to be adjusted. So in the final refinement, you can see those scores have been adjusted properly. You can see the bias or ethical aspect of it has been addressed properly. The race, gender, the education, even those biases are removed, which is very important. And as we observed, a lot of large language models they show biases, they may show prejudice, and they usually take the historical context because they have been trained on a lot of data.
Mm-hmm.
So they may show that bias because of just the historical context, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we try to address those parts, those concerns, and also those, if you see the financial metrics also have been adjusted properly based on the type of the loan. The affordability score has been changed to reflect the loan status properly. And you can see the loan status, for example, for this type of loan, for the car loan, has been changed from bad to good. So I mean, that's very important, right? So to have the right LLM to give you the actual value of your loan application. So that's what we are working on. This could be applied to any use cases, not just loan use cases. And there's a lot of attraction to this. A lot, I mean, definitely can help a lot of HP's customer. It's definitely on HP's interest strategic list, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are at the top of the hour already. This hour always goes really quickly, and our panelists always have so much interesting information and knowledge and expertise to share. If you want to learn more, the URL for our AI ethics, there are some blogs and white papers out there. There's some videos that talk through these principles. You can use this if you want as a model for your own development practices of principles. The second one, so if you want to learn more about what's happening in HP Labs, simple URL there too, goes through some of the different, experimentations and research that's happening. And then lastly, if you want to get more engaged in these types of conversations, our advisory and professional services offers an AI transformation workshop. Within that workshop, it goes into some of the strategy building and ethical considerations while you're developing your use case. You can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. Feel free to get in touch with us. Please attend our next sessions, and thank you everybody for joining today.